Thanks for coming to story time. I think you're going to love this story because it's like a celebration of spring. That's where we are right now. The weather is getting warmer. Sometimes you don't even have to wear a coat or a sweater outside. And the blossoms are coming out. You see blossoms on the ground, and you see them in the bushes, and you even see them in the trees. You see a lot of squirrels right now. The birds are singing. It's a great time of year to fly a kite or put on your rain boots because a lot of rain comes down and jump in the puddles. It's just a fun time to live in the spring. So today's story has to do with spring. It's called The Fox and the Springtime Blossoms. And then after that, I have a craft to show you and that you can do at home. All right, let's get started with this adorable story about the cutest fox. His name is Fletcher. Now, the pictures are drawn by Tiffany Beek. And I think when you look through the pictures, you'll agree with me that she really does a beautiful job of painting this fox and all the blossoms around. The butterflies and birds, you'll see them. The story is written by Julia Rawlinson. And I really like this book because when you're reading it, it's lots of fun. Listen for sounds that are repeated. You'll hear a lot of S's and a lot of B's, B, and it really makes it fun to read this story out loud. All right, let's get started. It's the fox and the springtime blossoms. When you look at the fox, look at the shapes that Julia Rawlinson uses. She uses a triangle for his head and his ears. She uses an oval for his body and his tail. And she uses rectangles for his legs and feet. And his arm is shaped like a kidney bean. You can try to draw a fox too. Triangles, ovals, rectangles, and kidney beans. The woods were full of the chirping, bustling, sing-song sounds of spring. Did you hear all those S's? Sing-song sounds of spring. Fletcher bounced along with his nose in the air, sniffing the just burst buds of flowers and playing chase with butterflies. With his head spinning with sights and sounds, he tumbled happily down the hill into the sunny orchard. But when he picked himself up from the ground, he could not believe his eyes. An orchard is like a field of trees, and the trees often have apples or pears, some sort of fruit. And you can go to the orchard and pick the fruit off the trees. So when Fletcher fell down the hill, when he tumbled down the hill and he opened his eyes, he was surprised. What do you think he saw in the orchard? He could have seen an apple, but he wouldn't be surprised to see an apple. Maybe he saw a bear or a dragon. Let's find out. Look what he saw. A soft breeze danced through the branches, carrying snowy flakes. Snow so late in spring, thought Fletcher. It will be too cold for the buds and the butterflies. There's no time to lose. He's going to save the day. Looking for someone to tell, he trotted back up the hill and he passed a pair of birds cuckooing on a branch. You've flown to your summer home too soon, Fletcher cried. I've been down to the orchard and there's more snow on the way. Well, then we should fly back south, called the birds. But first, we must tell Porcupine. He has just come out of his bed of leaves. He needs to snuggle back down or he'll freeze. So thoughtful, right? The birds could have just flown south, but they're thinking of their friend, the porcupine. There's the porcupine. Fletcher and the birds found Porcupine stretching and scratching. There's snow on the way, panted Fletcher. I saw it in the orchard. It will be too cold for the butterflies. The birds will need to fly south, and you must hide away. Then I should crawl back into my bed, snuffled the porcupine sadly. But first, we must tell Squirrel that he needs to hunt for food. He's eaten his winter store of nuts. He's going to need to find some more. Wasn't that thoughtful? The porcupine wasn't thinking of himself. He was thinking of his friend, Squirrel. Fletcher and the birds and the porcupine found Squirrel scampering after sunbeams. And here's Squirrel. The squirrel looks like it's a red squirrel. Sometimes squirrels are black. Sometimes they're gray. And he's having fun in the forest. Squirrels always do, don't they? They're always scampering around, running and playing. Snow is blowing in from the orchard, gasped Fletcher. It will be too cold for the butterflies. The birds will need to fly south. Poor Porcupine must get back to bed. And you, Mr. Squirrel, you must find some food. You're right. I've eaten my spring feast, said Squirrel, and all my stores are gone. But before I hunt for more, we need to tell the rabbits to munch as much grass as they can before the snow falls. Fletcher and the birds and the porcupine and the squirrel hurried off again. The rabbits, they are here. 1, 2, 3. The rabbits were rolling down the hill next to their burrow. And here's their burrow. Stop playing, cried Fletcher. There's snow blowing in from the orchard. It will be too cold for the butterflies. The birds will need to fly south. Poor Porcupine must get back to bed. Squirrel needs to find food, and you rabbits must munch more grass. Before we eat, said the rabbits, staggering dizzily to their feet. Let's go play in the snow. The rabbits were fun, weren't they? Look here. Can you find the rabbits? 1, 2, 3. Can you find the squirrel? This is a squirrel. Look at his tail. Can you find the porcupine? Poke. How about the birds? 1, 2. And here is our main character, Fletcher. So the rabbits hoppity, roly poly plopped down the hill through the woods. They were chased by the squirrel, porcupine, the birds, and a bouncy, full of importance fox, all the way to the orchard where the ground was white with blossoms. It wasn't snow, it was blossoms. Blossoms were bobbing in the branches. Blossoms were blowing in the breeze. Blossoms were blanketing the ground, and not a snowflake to be found. Did you hear all those bee sounds? Blossoms, blossoms bobbing in the branches, blossoms blowing in the breeze, lots of bees. Those are blossoms, not snow, you foolish fox, the animals cried. Poor Fletcher. Fletcher blinked and he rubbed his eyes. He was feeling very silly. But then, look what happened. The animals scooped up pawfuls and clawfuls of blossoms from the ground and covered him in a tickly shower of white fluttering petals. Fletcher and his friends ran and played between the trees until at last they all collapsed in a blossomy soft white heap. A heap is a pile. I really like this page because if you remember on the page before, the friends were not kind. Fletcher made a mistake. He thought the blossoms were snow. And they said something unkind. They said, "You foolish fox." Those words made Fletcher sad, and they began to see that his eyes were tearing up. He was rubbing his eyes. Here the sentence says, Fletcher blinked and rubbed his eyes, feeling silly. When you see that one of your friends is going to cry, maybe from words that you said, You really should say you're sorry, right? His friends realized that they made him sad. And so they played. They didn't continue to be mean. They stopped the nasty words and they played with Fletcher. And it really cheered him up. Look, I see a smile. Sometimes we make mistakes with our words, don't we? Then, oops, the birds fluttered back to their branch with beakfuls of blossoms to line their nest. It's going to smell so good when the babies are born. Porcupine snuffled off up the slope, and his quills were dotted with tiny white petals. Isn't that funny? He poked them right on. The squirrel went dashing up and down the trees after snow white petals dancing in the breeze. He was playing with them. And the rabbits bounced back up the hill with blossoms to brighten their burrows. But Fletcher just lay smiling in his soft bed of petals, watching the blossoming branches bobbing overhead. And they are so beautiful. If you get a chance to check out this book, you'll agree. The pages are stunning. It makes me happy that right now we are in spring because we are starting to see these petals. In fact, just this morning at the library, I was up at the front desk and petals were floating all around the windows. There's some sort of tree out there that has blossoms, and eventually the blossoms fall, and it really did look like it was snowing outside. I said to my workmate, hey, look, it looks like it's snowing. And it did remind me of this book, The Fox and the Springtime Blossoms. I hope you get a chance to check it out. There's also a book, Fletcher Fox, I think it's called And the Falling Leaves. It's about fall. And that is another great book that you might want to check out if you want a book about the fall and winter. Now I have a craft for you. You can make your own blossoms. I made mine in a pot. See that? And these are zinnias. Zinnias, they bloom in the summer and they're like this big. They're very big blossoms. Zinnias are like one color. It's either red or yellow or pink. There's purple, there's orange. So when you're doing your zinnia craft, you want to think about what color do you want to make that flower? And you just do all one color there. And then you look at the next flower. What color do I want that flower to be? And you make that all one flower there. And then you do the third one. Some flowers have different colors on them, but zinnias are really just one color. Sometimes in the center, I think there might be like a little bit of a yellow, maybe where the pollen is. So to make this craft, I have this template. So you're going to color the pot. And notice when I colored my pot, it's just all white. I used lines. Now I used straight lines up here. And here I used swirls, didn't I? See that? You could use horizontal lines. They go this way. You could use vertical lines, diagonal lines. You could use short little lines, any kind of lines you want. You could even use shapes like triangles and ovals and rectangles. You could just make it plain. It's up to you. It's your artwork. You can use lots of colors. Mine is kind of boring. When I was all done, I was like, oh, I wish I used some color on my pot. I only used one color, but I wish if I could do it again, I think I'd make more colors on it. So you're going to get a template like this. You're going to color your pot. And then you're going to take tissue. I have tissues for you in your envelope. And you're going to crinkle it up and glue it onto your flower. And you're going to take all red or all purple or all yellow, whatever color you get in there, put them all on one, and then make the next one another color and the next one another color. And then when you're all done and it's dry, you can cut it out and you could write a message on the back for your mom or your grandmother or your aunt. Guess you could do it for your dad too. I was thinking of Mother's Day, but you can make it for anybody you want. Write a little message on the back and you could give it as a gift. Or you could just keep it for yourself. It's up to you. It's your craft. So when you come to the library, there will be an envelope inside the front door with your name on it, and it will have a template, and it will have lots of blossoms, lots of tissue paper, and you can glue it on and make yourself a craft. I hope you enjoyed that. Well, hopefully I'll get to see you soon. Hopefully you'll come to the library and say hi. I'm here in my office. Hopefully you'll get to come say hi, knock on my door. And if not, then maybe I'll get to see you in May when we start up story times again. So thanks for coming today. I hope you like that book as much as I do. Have a good day, okay? Thanks for coming. Bye, everyone.